Welcome back to the JCPod, partner with Stare Down Sports. Stare down greatness, and man, did we get to witness some greatness on Monday night. I'm getting chills just thinking about it, man. So today, we're going to do something a little bit special. We're going to open up with college football because the final game of the college football season has came and went, and boy, was it a great one. So we'll talk about that to start off, and then we'll recap the divisional round and kind of go over what happened in those games. But yeah, I want to start off with the college football game because, wow. Shout out to the Indiana Hoosiers and Curt Cignetti. Indiana, 27-21 victory. First national championship in program history. Get you choked up, man. Truly a special thing that happened for that Indiana team. Oh, and it was a great game. I mean, the whole way. That game was just a great game. It started off, Hoosiers scored early. They were up 10-0. Looked like there was a chance where they were going to blow it wide open, but Miami converts a 4th and 1. And then they're able to score. Indiana blocks a punt to score a touchdown. Miami answers right back. It was like every time that Indiana was just starting to look like they were going to pull away, Miami was just able to hang on. It came down to Miami's driving down the field. They have a chance. Carson Beck threw up a ball that, the more you look at it, looked like the receiver didn't think he was going to get the ball. I mean, you look, he's the only guy on that side of the field. There's 2 or 3 guys around him. He looks at the ball looks back way too late. And another issue with it, let's be honest, Carson Beck, since the injury, I mean, I don't think I'm the only one who's noticed this or has been told this from multiple people, but you look at Carson Beck's arm strength pre-injury versus post-injury. Obviously, it's not fully there, and obviously he still has some, but he lost a good little bit from the injury, and he didn't have enough on the ball. Obviously, kind of floated there. A guy picked it off for Indiana. Ball game, your Hoosiers win 27-21. There were just so many moments in the game. I mean, Mendoza got killed on multiple times. He was just getting straight pounded into the ground. There was one where he took it right under their chin. He was able to get back up and everything. I mean, that was a very, very physical game. The refs let them play. Probably a little bit too much, to be honest, but I think I'd rather less calls than more calls, honestly. I think a lot of people would agree with that. So, when it comes to that aspect, would have liked a couple more things called in that game, obviously, but overall, I'm not going to complain about it too much at all because they let them play on both sides, and there's stuff that was missed on both sides, stuff that they did. I think it was the roughing the passer against Indiana. I thought that was a kind of bad call, and then there was one pass interference that Miami got where you looked at it and was like, they probably could have called something else other than that. There could have been so many other plays they called, but they called that one. So you can kind of look at it that way. Like I said, rather the officials let them play than not. And what a special moment for Indiana. Shout out to Mark Fletcher. He had an awesome game for Miami. Malachi Toney had an awesome game for them as well. Mesidor, Ruben Bain, Akeem Mesidor, Ruben Bain. What's the guy in the 99 in the middle? I mean, Miami was just defensively, especially in that second half, once they got Lucas back, they were just on fire. But in the end, it just did not matter because that boy, Cignetti, was able to lead them to the promised land. And it is truly special because you really think about it. It's we probably won't ever see something like this specific story again. Because, you got to think about it. Curt Cignetti's bringing up his guys from D2. They came up from D2. The same coordinators came up from D2 to Division I FBS to Division I FCS to now Indiana. There's so many special things about this Indiana team. I could go on for so long about it. But yeah, before I just read off some more Indiana stats and just talk a little bit more about Indiana, I want to give Miami one more last shout out. Mario Cristobal was in. I mean, he was really upset, and I mean, it makes sense. I mean, that was a very heartbreaking game. You could saw him, a guy who's usually not very emotional. He was holding back tears. You could, I don't know if there's videos of it you could see, but I heard it from people who were at the game. They talked about reactions outside the locker room and everything. But I want to give one more shout out to Miami before I fully go in on the Indiana part because Miami was the last team in. A lot of people didn't think they deserved to be there, and they put up one hell of a fight. And they were obviously a very, very good football team. It kind of stinks to say it, but a lot of people are saying it. Carson Beck just wasn't up to par last night, which is kind of what ended up getting him. Defense played good enough to win the game. It just came. I mean, you looked at it both sides. Mendoza, he stepped up. Beck was not able to. And that was basically what it came down to. But to talk more about, like I said, I don't want to put any more bummer on Miami. They already have heartbreaking loss. But like I said, to talk about the Hoosiers, I mean, wow, Fernando Mendoza. The toughness of that dude is insane. He took so many shots in that game, just kept getting back up, kept getting back up. And then on that 4th and 5 run, it chills, man. One of the probably most iconic championship moments / Heisman moments that we're going to see for a while. I'm not going to say it's the most. I'm not going to go that far, but that's one of those plays, like, we are going to see that play. I mean, first off, it won Indiana their first national championship, so that play's going to be etched in the history of Bloomington and all that. But when it comes to, like, actual college football history and everything, like, that's going to be one of those plays that's immortalized for a very long time to come. And there was just so many plays when you go there. And D'Angelo Pons, I mean, just absolutely blast the DB for... sorry, not the DB. He blasted number 87, Brian Mead, to break up big plays. You look at the block punt by Kamara, who then 46, what's his name? Can't think of it. 46 is able to grab it and score the touchdown. Aiden Fisher had a massive sack. I mean, it was just, everybody was making plays. Everyone participated, and that's a great all-around team effort. Now, the best part about Miami is, like, they might not have the most NFL guys. They broke the blue chip ratio. If for those of you know what it is, basically it comes down to, like, 5-star talent and all that. They basically, and it usually goes to say, like, if you have this much talent, you're probably going to win in this many games or win the national championship. Basically, just super dumb it down. That's kind of what it is. But yeah, Indiana completely shattered that, and it's just a team like that. They were just a team. They didn't beat themselves, albeit they did hurt themselves a little bit more than they normally do in the national championship. But they were a team all year that didn't beat themselves, and this is a special story, man. This is one of the teams that the losingest program in college football history. They're now ranked 125, but before this, they were the losingest. You could see pictures of, like, they were really down in the gutters. They had a couple years with Tom Allen where it was kind of looked like it might be back, but past that, it was dead. And it looked like they were just going to be one of those teams that just completely stays relevant. And then they hire a guy by the name of Chris Ignetti, and the rest is history. I win, Google me, and damn does he do it. It has truly been special, especially because, like, I'll admit, I'm a Notre Dame fan, obviously, so, well, I guess, you know what I mean. I'm a Notre Dame fan, so Indiana obviously is my go-to school, but being a native of Indiana and thankfully not being a Purdue fan, I don't got to be picked one side or the other. I can kind of enjoy both sides for what it is, so it's like, it's going to be fun rooting for Purdue basketball, and take it out for what you will, honestly, but it's going to be fun for rooting for Purdue basketball in March, and then this Indiana Hoosier story has just been an awesome ride. I'll admit, I've never been a Hoosier fan before. But yeah, I was never really an Indiana fan until Kirk never really got there, because I'll admit, I followed him really, really closely his last season at James Madison, albeit partially because of the Pat McAfee show. They put me a little bit more onto him, but because before that, it was just, he was winning money for me betting wise, so it's like, oh, this is awesome. I'm going to keep writing this. And then I learned about the James Madison story a little bit more, and falling in love with Kurt Cignetti as basically as a coach and everything, and being like, oh yeah, this guy is awesome. So it's one of those things where it's like, oh well, hey, I'm going to have a small little group of 5 team I'll be able to bet on for a good amount of time. Then he moves to Indiana, so it's one of those things where it's like, ooh, okay then. And I'll admit, this is something I'm very excited about. I'm not going to say I discovered him, because obviously that's not very true, but I was one of the very first people on that boat with him when he came to Indiana. I did shows with Rowan when he was still doing shows. Shout out my boy, we miss ya. But when I was doing shows with him, I popped on, we talked about it. I talked about it in this show. It's like, Indiana's going to turn it around now. I will admit, didn't think they'd win a national championship in 2 years. That's just absolutely insane. And go 16-0 and win the national championship in 2 years. But it was one of those things where it's like, as soon as he came to Indiana, it's like I said, I was going on Rowan's show. It's like, hey, he's going to be a winner, man. That's all he does is win. Like he says, Google him. But no, all he did was win, and I was like, okay, so he's going to definitely turn around Indiana. They're going to start winning a lot. So truly, it's just been awesome, because I rode like that last year. He had a James Madison. Then it's been like ever since. It's been every game in Indiana I've been able to ride, so I was able to like bet on them when they were dogs, take advantage of that. To then riding the highs of being sad about, oh man, I can't bet on the spread's a little bit too high, and then they cover it anyway. So it's truly been a special journey, but main point of it all basically is just, this is truly something that is special and historic. I mean, truly is just amazingly historic. Indiana was 150-1 basically at one point to win the national championship, and I think it ended up kind of settling at like 100-1 basically. But they are now the second, basically in like the U.S. Sports Championships with the worst preseason odds since '99. Shout out to whoever has the stat out. I think it's Sportico. Indiana's second with 100-1. 2023 UConn's men's basketball is 80-1. The Florida Marlins 75-1 in 2003. The number one is the St. Louis Rams at 150-1. But Indiana basically becomes like the second most unlikely, whatever you call it, second most unlikely team to ever win a national championship, which still is just crazy to think about that they actually did it. I just want to talk about a couple more stats before we move on fully, just to like kind of round this out. I meant to start with this, but kind of got to my point. Like, the last 4 games, they beat Ohio State, Alabama, Oregon, Miami. I mean, that's proving, and they beat them 134-56. I mean, absolute just domination by Indiana. Indiana did not lose a fumble over its final 1,047 offensive plays and 15 games, only losing a fumble in the first quarter of its season opener. No other team has gone since 2004, no other team since 2004 has gone more than 12 consecutive games. Just another way they just go completely all the way through it. First time national champions, you got this year's Indiana team, 1996 Florida, 93 Florida State, 91 Washington, 90 Colorado, 1984 BYU, just to name a couple. 6 bowl game victories in their career as a history of the program. Sorry, I don't know why word took me so long. 1979, December 21st, 1979, December 28th, 1988, December 31st, 1991. Then you got January 1st, 9th, and 19th, all of 2026. So they go from only having 3 in history, they basically double that. And yeah, I finished 27-2 in this official span. Indiana since 2021, 2-10, 4-8, 3-9, 11-2, and then they finished off with 16-0 with the confetti falling on top of them. I mean, it truly, truly was magical, man. Absolutely magical season. Shout out to Indiana Hoosiers, who become, like I said, immortalized in history now as probably one of the best stories in college football history. I mean, for sure it's one of the best stories in college football history. I'm not going to say it's the best because there's so many, and I don't want to be a prisoner of the moment, obviously, but definitely is going to be one of the best, and for sure it's one of the best in recent memory. One more thing, talk about college football. Seems like we're going to stay with the 12-team format for one more season. Sounds like it comes down to the Big Ten wants to eventually, they'll move to a 16. If then eventually that moves to a 24-team model. The SEC is fighting for a 16-team model. Seems like both sides aren't going to really budge from a lot of sources are saying. So looks like it's going to come down to another year of the 12-team next year, and then we'll see if we eventually move. But it sounds like we're at least going to move to the 16-team. If not, the 24 team is on the way, which it would be some play-in tourneys. It would be like some play-in stuff. They get rid of conference weekend, so I don't know. I think 12 is perfectly fine. I don't know why we already want to expand it again when we haven't even had it in for a year or two, and they're already talking about expanding again. It's absolutely crazy. But let's over to the NFL side. There were 4 good. Let me rephrase that. 2 great games, 1 pretty good game, 1 just absolute ass beating. We'll go over the ass beating first. The 49ers lost to the Seahawks. Seahawks win 41-6. Game started off with a kick return touchdown for Rashid Shaheed. So very similar. I think it was. We just had this happen in the game recently, where it's a kick return right away, and you're like, oh, okay. I won't lie. I can't remember what game it was, but of course, right before the show, I had it all nailed down. Didn't think I needed to write it down, so of course I forgot. But it was a game of recent memory like this just happened to, where they had a kick return right away too, and you're like, that's gonna be a long way. And it was one of the bets I had. I just am spacing it. But yeah, after that kick return happened, the 49ers to get to a point. This was the official point where it's like, oh yeah, they're done. In my eyes, at least. You get to midfield, the 49ers run a play, they get the first down. Oh wait, no, they didn't. Mike McDonald, was just able to call the timeout right in time, and yeah, right. It basically was the perfect time because they saw the play that the 49ers ran, and then so obviously the 49ers aren't going to run that again. So then they run a handoff toss to Juszczyk, who's going to do a pitch to McCaffrey, and it was just read perfectly. The 49ers get stuffed. And this was at midfield. So then you're looking at that like, okay, so this is going to be one of them games for sure. And it was 41-6. Seahawks just absolutely roll over the 49ers. Basically just seemed like the 49ers just quit at a certain point, but yeah, they were just absolutely outmatched. So shout out to Seattle Seahawks. They have a home game and are one game away from the Super Bowl, which is wild to think about. Broncos win 33-30 over the Bills. This was another game that was back and forth at one point. Denver is up 20-10 going into halftime. And then, like I said, it eventually just comes back and forth. Bills start to crawl back and crawl back and crawl back. So then it gets to the point where Bo Nix has a beautiful pass to Marvin Mims, where it's like, I won't lie, that was kind of the point where I'm like, oh man, Bills might be in trouble. And then the Bills are able to get in the field goal range. Matt Prater shoots a 50-yarder, sent in overtime, and then this is where the fun begins. Bills 3-0, I believe. I think they got the ball first, right? I won't lie to you, I kind of forget. Sorry, no, Denver got the ball first. Excuse me. So they basically went 3 and out, and then they punted it to the Bills, who then started to look like they were going to drive. And this was the point where it's like, all right, so this is where the Bills just need to drive down the field. Josh Allen will give them the field goal range. They're going to win the game. So as they're starting to drive a little bit, you're like, oh, they might do this. And then there's a deep shot to Brandon Cooks, where this was the big play that everyone's obviously been talking about all over media and everything. Looks like he catches it. He doesn't. It ends up being an interception. Yeah, and then after that, Broncos got like 50 yards of penalties that go their way. They end up kicking a field goal, and it's over. I'll admit, were some of those PI? Yes. Have we seen refs let them go and not call it because of the moment? Yes. Did we just watch a moment earlier with the Bills where they didn't call it? Yes. So I'll admit there's some... My issue with the game was I just didn't like how the officials kind of just ended it. For one thing I'll admit, obviously it was an interception, I think, at this point. I don't want to say obviously, but I think, what is a catch anymore? Let's be real. That's the first real question. What even is a damn catch anymore? I don't think anybody fully knows what it is, but what we got, because I mean, realistically with that play though, if the ball hits the ground and pops out, it's not a fumble, it's an incompletion. So, I mean, there's arguments either way, but like I said, the interception happens. My first complaint right away is like, all right, so they don't. Usually they've spent like 10 minutes trying to find a spot of a ball and everything. They spent like all of like 30 seconds looking at this play. They're like, nope, it's an interception. All right, let's move on. Don't get why they didn't look at it for longer than they did, especially when it's the playoffs and one of the biggest plays of the game. And then, like I said, another thing I didn't like was just the refs. The refs got way too involved, I thought, towards the end of the game. And Broncos end up moving on. They go to the AFC Championship. They also they're similar to Seahawks. They are one game away from the Super Bowl, and they get to host it at home. Not the Super Bowl, but that last game. Only issue is they're without Bo Nix, who fractured his ankle on the second to last play, which is just absolutely heartbreaking for the Broncos and for Bo Nix. What a horrible way to go out. Second to last play of the game, where you're basically setting it up to win, and yeah, you just get your ankle fractured. Just absolutely heartbreaking. I feel so bad for him. And only thing I'm scared of for the Broncos a little bit, we'll talk about it more tomorrow when we break down the games. Their defense did not play the best in that game. James Cook was really, really going off for the Bills, but they just weren't able to do enough. Rams-Bears. Rams win 20-17 in overtime. Mevis kicks a 42-yard field goal to give them the lead. This was another game that was also back and forth. Rams score first, and then Chicago scores a touchdown and gets a field goal. Rams kick a field goal going in the half. And then it was basically just trade. And so at that point, excuse me, not trade. It was 10-10 for the longest time. It basically goes until like the 8th minute of the fourth quarter where Kyren Williams is able to score a touchdown. And then after that, it's still not tied, 17-10, 17-10. It's looking like the Bears are maybe going to get stuck in the mud. Maybe they won't have the magic. Then it comes down to the play everyone's talked about with Caleb Williams. Basically 60-yard pass for a 14-yard touchdown. Absolutely hilarious. But 4th and 5, you get the stop here. If you're the Rams, you win the game. Don't have to worry about anything. Instead, Caleb Williams reverses back, pivots, throws an absolute dime of a pass to Cole Kmet that sucks to think about it, that play ends up kind of meaning nothing in the grand scheme of things. But awesome playoff football moment for the Bears that basically will live on, I think, in everyone's minds. And it was a great moment for the Bears, man, with the season in general. That moment basically was the culmination of their season where it's just like they were just finding ways to make things work. Oddly enough, though, they didn't go for 2, and they ended up kind of biting. You wonder why they weren't aggressive there, especially being the home team. But they ended up going to overtime. Similar situation to what happened with the Bills. Bears get ball first. They so like how the Broncos got the ball first, Bears get ball first. They punt it back to the Rams, but unlike the Bills, who turned it over, the Rams were able to keep the ball. They bring it down to where they're able to kick a 42-yard field goal, like I said, for Mevis, and that ended up winning the game. Matt Stafford at 258 passing, Caleb Williams at 257 passing. The rushing game for both teams is doing pretty decent, but that was just a really good playoff game. You got to feel bad for the Bear fans, though, because like I said, they had the magical Caleb moment, and it's like, oh my God, we're going to do it again, aren't we? And then sadly, they just weren't able to do it again, and the Rams were able to be the ones who pull out the win. Really, just I feel so bad for Bo Nix, man. Feel bad for Bears fans. Feel bad for Bo Nix fans. I'll admit, because like you got a really good chance, Bears, and now you go into next year. It's like, hey, you kind of got it. Figured out what you want to do and everything. But the only thing that's not going to be going your way now is the schedule, because you're getting that first place schedule. So now it's like, all right, are you guys really a good team, or was that just a, hey, we beat up on bad teams like everyone says the Patriots are doing, who win this game 28-16. Absolute snow flurry. There's turnovers all over the place. Kind of crazy how C.J. Stroud plays like ass cheeks when he doesn't play anybody else unless it's the Colts. All jokes aside, though, there's very interesting stat about C.J. Stroud since his rookie year and everything, about how it's just been dipping, and you gotta wonder, it's like, is it a bit of him? Is it the coaching around him? Do they need a better offensive scheme? You really gotta wonder, because they... And Dan Orlovsky said this on ESPN, any other quarterback that win the game, I don't know for sure about that, but they definitely... I mean, first off, 14 for 17 on the ground for what he marks. Their offensive line was just getting used and abused all game long. But overall, I'll admit, I don't know. I would say probably with the majority of the league's quarterbacks, you probably win that game, though, just because, I mean, with how many turnovers it was truly there for the taking. If the Texans' offense could just do something, it's just, especially by the end of the game, C.J. Stroud, it just seemed like he did not, which is something we're really got to wonder about. To be fair, though, he did say I can't believe that. He called himself, like, old. I think when he's like 20, he was like last year or something, he's like, man, I'm getting older now, so I got to be smarter when I do stuff. It's like, dude, you're in your 20s, what are you talking about? But he did not like to get hit in that game, and you could really tell. There was some throws where he just let it go. Like, there was one where he had that floater pick to Marcus Jones where it's like, that's just a guy not wanting to get hit. So he just kind of like tries to throw it instead of getting hit. It floats in the air, it's intercepted. He had 4 interceptions. I mean, Drake May, I think, had 5 fumbles. He gave up 3 of them. Or it's like 4, gave up 2, something like that. But Kayshon Boutte, what a catch by him. Stephon Diggs also had an amazing catch. Defensively, the Patriots defense absolutely balled out with no Nico Collins for the Texans. And yeah, it was just a very rough day for the Texans offense. And C.J. Stroud did not look good in both these playoff games. So there's a lot of talk now about him going into this offseason. So he's got the build on it, man. It was a really bad look for him. Then, man, as a Colts fan, it just hurts to think, like, man, Colts could have been in all this if they just didn't have their collapse. But no, in all seriousness, shout out to the Patriots. That was an awesome win for them. Man, it's crazy to think that Drake May or Jarrett Stidham's going to be in the Super Bowl this time 2 weeks from now. Crazy. This is one of those. It's very interesting. I didn't realize this. I learned this stat, and it's just something I didn't think about. And then you look back at history after you learn it. It's like, oh, that really is a thing, huh? And it's a stat basically about how I think it's like every 5 to 7 years or so. I think it's more so the 5 to 6 range, but every 5 to 6 years, we'll say, there's usually just a really weird Super Bowl winner. And you look back in history, it's like you'll see these two, like you'll look back in history, these teams were dominating for a bit, and then just this random year, this team won. Domination by some of these teams. This team won. So it was just very fascinating, because this is definitely one of those years. I think it's been kind of projected like that for most of the season, the way the season was going. And now it's officially here where we go to championship weekend. We got the Rams-Seahawks, 2.5-point spread. Seahawks favored. Patriots-Broncos. Patriots, 4.5-point spread. They're favored by. Man. And now the college football's over. It's a crazy thing. We only have 3 games left. 2 games on Sunday. Week off. We don't count Pro Bowl around here. week off, and unless they bring back the old format of the Pro Bowl, then we'll count it. But 2 games on Sunday, week off, Super Bowl next Sunday. Man, kind of hurts to say that. It's crazy to think that we are truly like 3 weeks away from me coming on here and being like, all right, look in the corner. We got the countdown going. 200-something days till football's back. I mean, you want to talk about PTSD, man. I don't like that that's coming real fast. Because it truly feels like the season just started not too long ago. Like, it feels like we're maybe in, like, all right, we're in, like, week 8, 9, 10 range, it feels like, to me a little bit. And it's just crazy to think that's like, no, actually, we're at the end of the season, brother. And we're to the point where it's like, you're going to start getting ready for next season. But let's finish it out. Let's talk about some news that is going on in the NFL, because there's a lot of coaching hires, a lot of coaching changes and all that. But yeah, Harbaugh, there was some discretion for a minute, like he might not go to the Giants after he signed, but he is officially he's officially with the Giants, and that makes him kind of a serious player right away. They have a decent roster. Now it's just like, all right, let's see if he can turn them around. I mean, this is the type of coach they needed. He signed a 5-year deal, which is very fascinating that they gave us the deal, because usually they don't. The way they announced his salary was kind of like how they announce a player's salary, which is very, very weird for NFL, because usually they do not announce the coach's salaries like that because they don't have to. So that was a very fascinating part, but let's see if he's able to change around for them. Something I'm not the happiest about, Titans are hiring Robert Saleh to be their head coach. I don't know if the Jets was fully his fault, but yeah, I don't know if it's fully the Jets were fully his fault. They were kind of chaotic. He did do really good with the 49ers as defense. I don't know how to fully evaluate the head coach. I'm a little bit nervous about him going to the Titans, though, because he is a bit competent. I was really hoping they'd hire Matt Nagy, because the Titans were looking at him, and that would have been awesome as a Colts fan if they were able to get him. But as for the Titans, like, looking at this from not a Colts fan perspective, but a neutral party, this is a chance to be a pretty decent hire, especially because if they can bring back their kind of defensive back. He's basically a tier or 2 lower version of Mike Vrabel, I would say, except more focused on the defensive side. Which I don't know, that's not a diss to him, but when I say a tier or 2 lower, but yeah, I want to see if more of the Jets tenure thing was him or if it was the Jets. Trespassing charges were dropped against Jordan Addison. We'll see if more news comes out with that. Apparently, George Kittle's Achilles injury seemed best case scenario by the doctors. They didn't have to drill in my heel. Said where the repair was, there's more blood flow, so it takes some time off the recovery. So which is very good for him. It sounds like, because I think the drilling into the heel one is when it's like the full on fixing of it. Dolphins are hiring Jeff Hafley to be their defensive coordinator, or not defensive coordinator, excuse me, be their head coach. I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't know how I actually fully feel about that move. Firing Mike McDaniel for firing Mike McDaniel for him. There's no offense to Jeff Hafley, and I could be totally wrong about this. I'm very curious to see how it works out, but you just thought they were going to go. I think that maybe it's just me too. I thought they were going to maybe go bigger name, but Jeff Hafley I don't think is a bad name at all. It does make sense if you really think about it, though, because he did come with the Green Bay. I forget who the GM is, but the GM was one of the guys who worked in Green Bay, so it kind of makes sense if you think about it from that standpoint, because it's like, all right, they're bringing 2 guys who worked with each other for at least 1 to 2 years, so they kind of know each other already. So if you look at it from that aspect, then all of a sudden it's like, okay, maybe that's not the worst of ideas then, but I was just shocked by the name, to be honest. Did not expect him, like I said. Bieniemy is returning to the Chiefs as an offensive coordinator, which I think is a great move for them. Since Nagy came back, the Chiefs' offense was kind of not the best and kind of very mediocre. If they can bring in a running back and they have Eric Bieniemy, I think this offense has a chance to go back to being kind of back to a little bit what it was. Obviously, Andy Reid is one who is the play caller, but I just don't like. I think when Nagy got there, it just wasn't the best of fits. I think they were a lot more effective when obviously Bieniemy was there. So it's going to be interesting to see if they can bring back that magic. I don't think it's a bad move at all. J.K. Dobbins could face the Pats after his practice window opened, which is just crazy to think about. So if they make the Super Bowl, there's a really good chance he's playing in the Super Bowl. The Lions are hiring Arizona Cardinals offensive coordinator Drew Petzinger as their new offensive coordinator, which I don't like that move at all. I was not a fan of the Arizona Cardinal offense fully, to be honest. Maybe that was just the players versus his scheme thing, but it sounds like they could have had Mike McDaniel a little bit as well. But I don't know, man. Between Mike McDaniel and Drew Petzinger, I think I definitely would have took Mike McDaniel's, but that's not the direction. Obviously, the Lions went, which is just very, very fascinating. Like I said, I don't fully agree with the move. We're going to have to see if it works out, but I'm not a fan of that move, I will admit. Sean McDermott got fired and from the Bills, and a lot of players sound like they're upset. I don't know fully how to evaluate the move. I'll admit, I thought Brandon Beane, when they promoted him, like, oh, hey, that's a good move. Brandon Beane's been good for them. And I'll admit, this is totally based on him just appearing on the Pat McAfee show. It's like, oh, he's a good guy. He's done pretty well for them. And then I saw some stuff got put in my face about his recent drafts, and you look at the way the team was built, and then you heard a story about how he and I forget who the other guy was thought the team was a Super Bowl contender. Sean McDermott didn't think so, and that's partially why they let him go. And that meeting happened 5 weeks ago. You read stuff like that all of a sudden, and it's like, oh, maybe they did fire the wrong guy and kind of promoted the. Makes you wonder. They maybe got rid of the wrong guy, and I'll admit, I might lean towards that a little bit because I don't think Sean McDermott was too bad for the Bills at all. But one of those things, maybe his time just ran out there. He was there for a while. They kind of got plateaued at a certain point. Maybe if they bring in the next guy. I mean, it happened with the Broncos. John Fox was really good for them. He just can get over the hump. They brought in Kubiak. He got him over the hump. Charbonnet, he's going to go undergo season-ending surgery for his knee. That was just honestly horrible for him when he went down. I didn't realize the injury was that bad at the time. You just thought, okay, maybe he'll be back, and maybe he'll be back if they can make the Super Bowl. Maybe he just might have to miss a week. It's torn ACL, brother. That is a lot longer than I think a lot of people thought. Jeff Ulbrich is staying on Kevin Stefanski's staff as a DC. We talked about the Sean McDermott thing, and I think that's basically it for any of the big news. Steelers scheduling a visit with Mike McCarthy. That's going to be fascinating. See what comes of that. Kevin Stefanski got hired to the Falcons. I guess we didn't fully take into that, but that's going to be another interesting hire. I don't know how to fully evaluate that after his time with the Browns, but he has a good squad, so he probably should win if he wants another coaching job. Because I think if he loses here, he might be shit out of luck, potentially. Matt LaFleur signs an extension with the Packers. Makes the most sense, especially with this coaching market. He's probably one of the better ones out there. There's no reason to move on from him. Maybe if they can just stay a little bit healthier, it'll go a little bit better for them. And I think it's going to do it. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for support. Really do appreciate it. I will be back in this feed tomorrow. We'll go over my championship game bets for the AFC and the NFC. Really, really sad that we're already to that time. Because after that, man, then we get basically a week off just talking about news, prepping for the Super Bowl, which I always hate that layover week, but we'll fight through it. And then we'll be on the Super Bowl week, and then it's the off season. Crazy, man. Absolutely insane. That's already almost the off season. Kind of excited. I think going into next football season, I want to tweak some stuff with the show. Maybe add some sound effects, add some graphics, start working on some of that stuff. I want to do that more this year, but I'll admit, I bought a house and I just completely, won't lie to you, made life a little bit busier. So I feel like I've gotten way more settled in as the weeks have gone on. Feel like I'll be able to hopefully get in a groove a little bit this summer. And I'm excited, man. During Super Bowl week, we'll probably go over, or during the Super Bowl bye week, I mean, we'll probably just go over my betting record, kind of talk about how all that finished out. College football-wise, I think we were like 33, 37-1 with the regular season. Then postseason, we were 22-7 on bowl games and postseason. Nasty Boys 0-19 in college, but we don't need to talk about that. Well, like I said, that'll be more of next week's conversations. Tomorrow is going to be the AFC game, NFC Championship game. We're going to give out bets, projections, talk about those two games. Talk about any more news that I might miss from the fall of the National Championship and the NFL playoffs.